A little bit harder, maybe. Especially during our fight. That'd be awesome.
I'll just hold it right here.
Okay.
Let me say good morning, and if you don't mind, we're going to kind of divide this up into two parts. The first part is going to be the press conference on the Houston Pension Solutions and where we are, and then the second part will be questions in general. And because I know there's a luncheon later on, and so, and then of course we have people from the Great Houston Partnership and the police chief and the fire chief and the council members and others. So we'll divide up into two parts. We'll do the first part first on pensions, and then I can entertain any questions anybody may have on the second part. Everybody will be free to leave after the first part. Let me just say that, this journey on pensions, it started in January of 2016. It started for this administration in January 2016. It started for the city of Houston going back to 2001. And as you all know, the unfunded liability is now at $8.1 billion. It grows by $1 million a day until the matter is resolved. For the first time in those 16 and a half years, it is now out of the House Pension Committee. That's a plus. It's now out of the Senate Pension Committee, State Affairs Committee, and that's a plus. It's on the intent calendar of the Senate, which means that at any given point, today, tomorrow, it could be on the floor of the Texas Senate. Calendars Committee in the House could take it up today, tomorrow, could be set on for debate on the House floor as early as next week. And I anticipate, being very optimistic, I anticipate some action being taken probably sometime next week, and which is major. But I want to emphasize, and I think we cannot emphasize enough, the importance of this issue. And that's why today the Mayor Pro Tem is standing, Mayor Cohen, the Vice Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Davis, the Chair of Public Safety Homeland Security, Brenda Stardick, is standing, the Vice Chair of that committee, Steve Lee, Councilmember Amanda Edwards, Councilmember Carlos Cisneros, Councilmember Jack Christie, are all here standing on this particular issue because we all know that a failure to get pension reforms will directly impact public safety. Glad to have with us. And Councilmember Greg Travis, not see you. Councilmember Greg Travis is here as well. And I mentioned Christie. And then we have, of course, Chief Acevedo for the HPD and Chief Pena with the fire department, and then Ray Hunt, and along with many of the people affiliated with him, representing the police officers themselves, the rank and file, and so many others. And then Anthony Chase, representing the Greater Houston Partnership, is standing here. That's why all of us are standing here to emphasize the importance of what this Houston Pension Solution will have as it relates to public safety, which is our #1 priority. That's #1, okay? A failure to get this pension bill passed before the legislative session is over will directly impact public safety in the city of Houston. And I want you to consider certain things. When you take a look at the police department in this budget, 94% of the police department's budget is in personnel. 94%. 91, 92% of the fire department's budget is in personnel. It's in personnel. And overall, when it comes to the city's general fund, when you minus out debt, pay as you go, those type of things, the percentage could be as much as 74%. Personnel. Which means, and what does that mean? We are expecting a budgetary shortfall this year. The budget that we're going to be dealing with in a few weeks will already be approximately $90 to $100 million short. A failure to get pension reform passed in this legislative session will add approximately $130 million on top of that expected budgetary shortfall, which could be about $240 million. That means that there is absolutely no way how we can balance the city's budget without laying off police officers, firefighters, without looking at consolidating police stations or police storefronts. Same thing with fire stations. No group of employees is going to go unscathed in this process. Police officers, firefighters, municipal workers. And our number one priority is public safety. And today we wanted to emphasize that because sometimes people, we talk about pensions in a general sense and people don't really understand how does that impact me? It means that when you're calling for a police officer, the response time will be slower. When you're calling for a firefighter, EMS, the response time is going to be slower. When it comes to this equipment that we've been talking about, and many of our police officers and firefighters are riding around in equipment that is outdated. It's been used, very difficult. That takes money to purchase it, okay? So a failure to get pension reform passed in this legislative session will have a direct adverse effect on public safety, not 2 years down the road, not 5 years down the road, but quite frankly, in just a few weeks. And if you notice today, I think one of the reasons why the member city council was concerned about the time schedule or calendar that I put into effect is because I think we all recognize the budget that I'm submitting to city council assumes that there will be a pension resolution. If there's no resolution, all bets are off the table. And that was demonstrated in today's meeting with City Council because what it means is that they can then, and as we agreed, start making amendments to the budget on the day that we are voting on the budget bill because we will simply have to take into account many other options if we don't get pension reforms. So all of this is very much affected. Now, all the time we talk about how much we love police officers. And you're not going to find hardly anybody say how much we don't love police officers. We talk about how much we love firefighters, okay? And you're not going to find too many people that's going to say we do not love them. But we have to support them as well. And what that means is providing us with the tools that we need to do all that we can to make sure that we hire enough. One report said we needed 1,500 more police officers. I have consistently argued that at a minimum, we need about 600. Councilmember Stardick may have another number in mind, but I think we're all in agreement we need more.
That's a range.
We need more police officers. Well, 600 police officers is going to cost you about $85, $90 million. But we need more because right now we have 5,200 police officers trying to cover 640 square miles and asking them to do almost everything, okay? Well, if we don't get pension reform, forget about adding one more police officer. Let's start talking about how many we're going to be saying, thank you for your service, but we cannot afford you at this point in time. That's a totally different conversation. And so when people are looking and evaluating the pension solution that we have put forth to the legislature, and all of us respect every member of the legislature, okay? We respect every member of the legislature. But we have the direct responsibility of providing for the public safety. The members of city council, this mayor, is our direct responsibility. These individuals have the direct responsibility of responding to the calls. Yeah. And I hope people will understand the impact that this will have if this pension solution is not moved forward in a positive vantage point. And simply to demonstrate the consensus of this issue, Anthony Chase, who's worked with us from last year moving forward, and Mark Watts and others with the Greater Houston Partnership, continue to stand in support of the pension solution that we have before City Council, before the legislature. So it's my hope that the legislature will act, that they will act soon, and that they will keep pretty much what we have submitted to them intact. At this time, let me step to the side. Let me call on Chief Acevedo for his comments.
Well, good morning. Good morning, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for your comments, and the members of the council and all of our colleagues. I think this morning I can't stand here and really reiterate more forcefully the fact that I'm worried. I know the mayor's worried. I know the council's worried because these aren't hollow words. There is no doubt that if pension reform is not passed, we are going to take what is already a very lean police department in a very dynamic city that's very spread out, and we're going to have to lay off cops. When you think about the fourth largest city in the country, soon to be the third largest city in the country, you compare our existing resources to those of Chicago, where they have 11 to 13,000 cops. We're at under 5,200 cops right now. I want to just tell you, if we don't get pension reform, I want to apologize now, because we cannot squeeze any more out of these 5,200 officers. We've moved resources, Mayor, as you've asked me to. We've looked at data. We're changing days off. We're doing everything we can. But right now, we need you. Our men and women needs this community. Whether you live in Houston or outside of Houston, what happens in Houston, what will happen in the city of Houston is going to impact over 6 million people in the greater Houston area. When we can't combat crime the way that we need to, and it's going to spill over into surrounding communities. Quite frankly, what we do or can't do here will spill over into Austin. It will spill all over the state, because the criminal enterprise and the criminal element is always moving around, and when we can't fight crime the way we need to, it's going to have an impact on all Texans. And so I would just say this, that in 31 years of service, it's very rare for public safety employees or any employees to agree to a benefit reduction. To have the courage to say, we understand that we have to do our part. We understand that we have to tighten our belts a little tighter. We understand that in order to sustain our benefits and our pension, that we're going to have to take our fair share of a cut. And so I will just close, Mayor, by saying this, that it's really clear to me that we can talk about supporting the men and women in blue. We can talk about supporting firefighters. We can talk about saying that law and order and public safety is a priority, or we can act. We can act and support a mayor and a council that have had the courage to put something together to keep Houston budget really balanced, and more importantly, to keep pensions, which all we can do for these men and women that we lead is to make sure that moving forward that they know what their lives will look like 30 years from now. Because I know, Mayor, that part of this debate is some people only care about moving towards a defined contribution. I can tell you that in a world where most places are receiving in public safety a defined benefit, we will not be able to compete. It's already tough enough to compete and get police officers. And secondly, quite frankly, I think that somebody is willing to give up their lives to service, running into burning buildings and running towards gunfire like we had at the Jack in the Box the other day, where our officers ran knowing that they had 4 armed suspects. Right. We owe them a promise. The promise has been made, and I'm thankful to you, Mayor, for helping keep this promise, and I hope the legislature will support you. So no matter where you live, weigh in, because what happens in Houston, we don't live on an island, will impact every community surrounding Houston and ultimately communities throughout the state of Texas. Please weigh in and support the men and women in law enforcement and our firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Pena with the Fire Department.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for everybody being here. I want to speak specifically about the impact that a reduction in funds for the fire department is going to have on our effectiveness. The operational effectiveness of the fire department depends on resource availability and reliability. We are already strained to the max as far as being able to provide the service that this community has come to expect. When you consider, as Mayor mentioned, the fact that 92% of our budget is personnel services, wages and benefits. So I'm working on $45 million, and it's a lot of money, but we're covering 650 square miles. We're running 350,000 calls for service per year. It's already a strained system, and anything that will affect our ability to adequately fund the fire department is going to have a detrimental effect on our ability to provide service. I'm working on 8% of operational budget. That's to supply supplies, equipment, facilities, fuel, everything. So any further cuts in fire department budget is going to come from personnel. And our job requires us, we do work with and through people. And when we're impacted budgetarily, that means positions, that means people, that means response times are going to suffer. They are. I'm not I'm not trying to make it seem more than it is, but response times are going to suffer. It's irresponsible of me to deploy units without the proper equipment, without the proper training, in the proper amounts to handle any incidents, and expect them to do the same level of service with less resources. So again, I wanted to reiterate what's the theme that's come up here. Anything that's going to affect the City of Houston's ability to fund every department, and more particularly, public safety, will have an impact on service. So with that, I ask you, to please consider the fact that the service that the fire department provides here in the City of Houston doesn't only impact the citizens of Houston, it impacts the surrounding communities as well. Being the big fish, so to speak, in the pond, we do have a responsibility for mutual aid to other areas, and that's going to take an effect as well. So again, I want to close by saying that we need to solve the problem that we have right now that really is affecting our ability to properly fund public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor. Ray Hunt with the Houston Police Officers Union. I'm joined here today by our Vice President, Joe Gamaldi, and also Eric Carr, the President of the Afro-American Police Officers League. We are extremely concerned of what can happen if this pension reform doesn't pass. I go into Austin, I've been there every week since the session started, and I go into the legislator's office and ask, when was the last time you heard a labor leader come into you and say, I want you to vote to give me a 10.5% pay cut on future benefits? That's exactly what we're doing. And we're doing that because if we don't reform this, we're going to have the massive layoffs. We're possibly going to have an implosion of our pension system. For the last year, our mayor and our pension board has sat down and negotiated $1.3 billion in pension concessions for future benefits. Nobody who's getting a pension is going to lose one dime of what they're making today. But future benefits will not increase as much as they have been in the past. We took this to Austin. We filed it with Representative Flynn and Senator Joan Huffman, and they've carried this valiantly in both the House and the Senate. I'm going to say this right now. I am a Republican, and my fellow Republican and my Senator, Paul Betancourt, is gumming up this process. This man has gotten every single thing that he wanted in this pension reform except defined contributions. Most of you watching don't know the difference between a defined contribution and a defined benefit because I didn't until I got involved in this. But since he's not getting that one part, he's willing to gum up this entire process. So I'm asking you to ask the business community, to ask folks to get in touch with his office and let him know we want this pension reform. We don't want you to gum it up with your amendments that you know are going to get killed in a conference committee and end up killing the bill. If this bill does not pass, I'm completely convinced that there's going to be massive layoffs. We cannot handle massive layoffs. And when this city is jeopardized, when our officers' safety are jeopardized and when the citizens are jeopardized, I'm going to lay it right at the feet of Paul Betancourt if he continues to gum up this process. Thank you.
Well, Ray has never been, what's my word that I'm looking for? Always been very direct and very candid. Anthony Chase, I'm with the Great Houston Partnership.
Thank you, Mayor. The Greater Houston Partnership strongly supports pension reform. I think we all know that this can has been kicked down the road for altogether too long. Today, our firefighters, our policemen, our municipal workers have agreed to over $5 billion in concessions. The business, over $5 billion in concessions. I'm sorry, $2.5 billion in concessions that to pay off unfunded liabilities in 30 years. No tax cut, no tax increase for city residents. The business community supports this deal, and we urge our legislators to move. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Now, any questions you all may have on this issue?